September 24th, year of our Lord 2024. Item 2, roll call. City Secretary.
Mayor Hoven,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Swanner,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Mata,
Present.
Councilmember Thompson,
Present.
Councilmember Vasquez,
Present.
Councilmember Cornell,
Present.
Councilmember Haney.
Present.
Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 3, invocation will be delivered by Pastor Daniel Armstrong of Asbury United Methodist. Item 4, pledge allegiance. The Texas pledge will be led by Councilmember Swanner. Anyone wishing to join us for a moment of prayer with Pastor Armstrong can do so voluntarily by standing up. Pastor, this is your church. You have the floor.
You know, it's dangerous to put a pastor in front of this many people.
Have at it.
All right, let's pray.
Pray.
God, it's good to be here together to do work for the people of the city of Odessa. Lord, so often we let our own agendas get in the way. But our prayer tonight is that, Lord, we put our own agendas and look toward you for wisdom and guidance. Lord, let us remember that we have been a nation that was built on faith and trust in you. And Lord, that's what we pray for the people here tonight, that we would treat each other with respect. That we would love one another just the way you have loved us. Lord, we give you thanks for these servants who have put themselves out there, who have been elected to serve us. Lord, may you give them wisdom. And Lord, may you help us speak out when we need to speak, so that you would be glorified in all that happens. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
May be seated. Do you have no proclamations?
No, sir.
Any member of the public may address the city council regarding any of its agenda items before or during the consideration of the item. Council, as we go to item 6, consent agenda, I would want to ask the council to item 5, have someone, a member of the council, to remove this item from the consent agenda. I need a motion and a second.
So move.
I have a motion and a second. I have a motion. I need a second for item 5. I have a motion by Councilmember Cornell, second by Councilmember Mata, to remove this item from the consent agenda. All those in favor? Number 5. All those in favor by motion indication of saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion has been removed from the consent agenda. Council, will you consider the consent agenda as presented? Consider a motion to pass the consent agenda minus item 5.
I so move.
I have a motion by Councilmember Vasquez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Swanner. All in favor indicating by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Consent agenda has been passed except for item 5. Council, this item 5, I want to be able to stand alone. This consider accepting and appropriating funds for the sale of the old fire station number 6 and fire rescue. There's a request by staff to postpone this because it's in the wrong budget. If there's no discussion or you have any questions, you can direct that question to Mr. Beckmeyer if you need any further explanation. Seeing that,
Yeah, I just want to know if it's wrong budget, I'm sorry.
It needs to be in next year's budget,
Next.
so it can be appropriated
Next
for
year.
expenses in that budget.
That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
That's all. It'd be postponed until October, one of the October meetings.
no further questions, entertain a motion for item 5 to postpone.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Swanner. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Thompson. All those in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passed unanimously. We're going to move on to our regular agenda. Public hearing. Item 9. We're going to open a public hearing to consider a request for LCA zone change from FD, future development, to PSD, planned development, resurface. Ms. Shaughnessy.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner.
No.
Okay, let's try again. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and Council, sorry. So today we will be talking about a new housing development that is going to be coming. D.R. Horton will be the developer for this project. However, the applicant at this time is LCA. And the project will consist of, oops, sorry, went too far. So the project will consist of 552 houses, and 1 community park and 2 dedicated basins that will also serve as a dog park. The park will be maintained through a PID, which is currently being under contract right now, and they're working on the agreement for the PID. We're hoping to have this the PID concluded prior to the second reading. However, they are in a time crunch in where they need to close pretty soon, right? So we're trying to get that. If not, we did put in a condition that this won't be null if the PID is not approved. So in case that allows them to be able to close their contract, and it allows you guys to have a little bit more time to review the PID. So it does have, so it's a planned development district that is for special housing, and it does have the following conditions. That the width of the lots will be a minimum of 40 feet, and the depth of the lots will be 115 feet.
15?
115 feet. Let me pull up the slide so you guys can kind of follow. Okay.
Okay.
So, and they should have a minimum lot area, shall be 4,000 square feet. We also do have new setbacks for this, which consists with our existing regulations. However, because we're introducing a new housing typology, which I will go back to the slides for that, we're having the front yard setback to be 25 feet. This allows for a vehicle to be parked in the driveway. The front yard setback will also be 15 feet in a cul-de-sac. Because of the radius, it's a little bit different. The side yard setback will be 10 feet. The other side yard setback will be 5 feet, and the rear yard setback will be 10 feet.
Go back to real quick.
Mm-hmm.
You want to address item 10?
10, okay, so accessory buildings will not exceed the 8-foot height of the masonry wall. So on the west side of this property, which is part of we have next item that will kind of go against this project, that they are creating like a buffer between them. They're going to have a trail, a 10-foot trail. Then they're going to have the masonry wall. And then part of that, they have asked and put deed restrictions on those houses on that side. So they cannot be a 2-story. They can only be a 1-story. And then they cannot have an accessory building that is higher than the 8-foot wall that we have right here. These houses will also not be allowed to have water wells. However, that we are allowing them to have a water well for the PID use. And you'll see that on, I think it's in these other ones. I will go back to the housing typology. So we're introducing a different typology, which is similar to, I'm not comparing them with BIMBO, but they're just how BIMBO has their cottage housing. They're also introducing this new typology into our market as well, in order to be able to have housing for all kinds of income levels. This allows them to open up to a different market and to start. It won't compete with their project that is in the north side in Bell Park. They're they're targeting different demographics, but they still have as you can see throughout the pictures, they still have a good range of different styles of houses from all types of square footages in here. So we did present to our P&Z board. We received no objections for this project. We did do some modifications on it on the floor, but everything has been cleaned up and updated for you guys. So therefore, staff is recommending approval of this zone change. And I'm now open for any questions that you guys might have for us.
Council, open up the dais for any questions.
So Elizabeth, is this backs up to Villa Rosa?
To which,
Uh,
didn't hear you, sorry.
Villa Rosa
Let me double
to
check.
the south?
But to which direction?
South?
South.
Is it? No, right?
No.
Talking about down here on the bottom.
Our north
Or-
property line is contiguous with Villa Rosa, yes.
Yeah, thought it was. That's why I wanted to know, because those are big lots in there.
Yes.
So, okay, just want to make sure I understood, John. Yeah. I said, I just wanted to make sure I understood where it was exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Council, any questions, comments? All right. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to comment on item 9 as presented can do so by coming forward, stating your full name and only your full name. You can do that by coming forward now.
John Landgraf, I'm just here to answer any questions if you have any specifically or anything.
Anyone wishing to integrate Mr. Landgraf? Seeing that no one's taking up the offer, so we can get out of here early.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being sacrificial lambs. Seeing that no one's coming forward to speak on this, I will close the public hearing and ask the council to consider staff recommendation for this request to a zone change from future development to planned development surface drainage, future development district drill reservation.
So moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Cornell. All those in favor indicate by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to item 10. And open a public hearing to consider request by Los Cuatro Amigos LLC for a zone change from future development to mixed use. Ms. Shaughnessy.
Thank you again. So this one's an exciting one. So for the first time, we're bringing to you guys MU, which is a mixed-use development. So this is a little bit different of what you guys are accustomed to. Usually for a PD, of what you tend to see, a PD has specific sections that we have to fall into. This project didn't fall into that, so we had to use a mixed use, which allows us to then use our current land use calls to be able to incorporate what we need to put together as, we can say, a cake. So with that, it has different regulations. When we have a plan development district, we're presenting to you guys a site plan, which is detailed, which will have the layout of the buildings and have all that calculation done. With an MU, you're just selecting the kinds of land uses that you're putting in, and then, so it's just dealing with the land use for this project. So you're not going to see the buildings here. Those will get approved at a different time, right prior to the construction documents are submitted. They will come to the planning department, and it still goes on through an internal review, so all departments have to comply. We're not dealing with the drainage, we're not dealing with accessibility of the roads or any of that kind of stuff. The reason why it's allowed and we feel comfortable with this kinds of project is because we tend to see all of those things during the planning phase. So whenever they decide to go into the details of this project, they're gonna submit the plat. During the plat, engineering is going to review all the drainage for that. They'll do, if they need to do a traffic study, they'll do that during that time as well. Again, right now, we're just dealing with the land use and if it's allowed. That doesn't mean that they're not having to comply with any regulations that we're going to call out on this. So I just wanted to kind of explain that, just because it is the first one that the city is doing since the ordinance was adopted.
Right.
Okay.
Council, any questions on this? This was discussed at the planning and zoning.
Yes, it was.
I don't know, council did your homework. There was some minutes on it. I attended the meeting. There was some excellent questions. And so if you didn't see the minutes, there was some, I think the planning and zoning did their due diligence in asking very detailed questions. It was a long conversation. This is the first time that this is coming by the city. The other thing is that there isn't a timetable for the layout of the construction of the project. So one of the it's not a concern, but it needs to be said, is that regardless of where the council's going, this whole purpose of this project could change in the future, you know, within this mixed use. And so there's a lot of things that can happen on this, but I don't know how much leeway we have to be talking
Well,
about the project.
I'll go through the
Can you go through the
presentation.
project? Can you do that?
Sorry?
Can you go through the project, or you're limited to talk about the project?
Well, I'll explain
Okay.
through my presentation what we have presented to
That'd
us,
be
and then I'll defer to the engineer, who's
Okay.
the representative here.
Sounds
If you
good.
guys have any additional questions for. So as I stated, it's 159.8 or 159.28 acres that we're looking into this development. It's mainly divided into three kind of typologies of use. So you're going to have a golf course, which would be the 65 acres. Then you have the equestrian facility, which would be 63 acres. And then the rest that would be for what I am trying to, just so we all can kind of understand, it would be like a resort style of housing, but it's run through the country club. Correct? Okay. So with that, they are having some regulations already put into that. So let's talk about the housing that's in there. So we are going to have the use to be single family housing estates and SF 1, 2, 3, and 3, right? And ZEP 3. So what that means is that if the market changes and they do not need to have like the resort style, then the zoning is already there for them to go with that, they would kind of continue on with the same footprint that is around there with La Estancia. And so it allows them to be able to go into that. However, for your question, do we have control? Yes, we do have control, because at that phase, the zoning is correct for the housing, but now they need to come and comply with all the regulations from our city for engineering and for planning and zoning. So that means that right now, we are not dividing any of this property into anything, but at that time, each house will have to be subdivided into one lot each, because we can't have just one lot be everything. So now they have different regulations that kick in. They don't have to come back for anything in regards to the zoning, as long as they stay within that footprint that we just called out based on the site plan. So that allows them to just move forward, but they still have to comply with everything else. With the golf course, right now that's what it's called out for. So if they decide that they want to move away from that and do something else, they would have to come back and do a zone change for that area, because it no longer applies. The only use that they can have right now in that section is going to be the golf course. And the same thing goes with the equestrian. So right now for the housing, back to the housing, they're saying that the maximum number of casitas will be 16, that the maximum area of each casita would be 1,000 square feet. The casitas will be 1 story. The casitas intended to be on a single lot. The parking will be met, the parking, there's already a country club there, so a lot of their parking already exists there. What else? And they will have, so these are just criterias of the setbacks that are usually for an SF, which they are already kind of comparing to ours. So they did say that now each home, the maximum would be 5,000 square feet. The maximum numbers of housings would be 25, that the lot size would be, for each one, would be 14,520 square feet. So it stays consistent with what's already in the neighborhood of this area. The front yard setbacks will be 20 feet. Sides would be 5 and 15 along the streets, and the rear side would be 10 feet. Landscape, they're going to have to comply to our current ordinance, or as we're in the process right now of amending, it stays current to whatever we are at that time that they come in to pull the permits, or when we're doing the design review. And I think that's pretty much it. The signs would also have to comply to our sign ordinance, and they still will have to meet all of our regulations in regards to construction and development. So we did present to PNC, and they had we did some modifications, which is what's presented to you guys, and they did recommend for approval of this project.
Council, any discussions?
Elizabeth, on the, some of the additional information on it, it mentions 2 words. It mentions resort and country club. Those are 2 very different business entities, actually. That allows them, the developer, to steer into the direction they finally.
So they already have a country club there. So this is a continuation of what's there already. It was really hard to kind of find the proper language for the resort, what we call the resort style. They call the casitas. It's the same thing. That's something if you want us to mention. So instead of casitas or instead of resort style housing, we call them casitas. We can do that. It's just so we're consistent with everything. It's just on my ordinance, one of the things that we were watching out was that we're not allowed to have Airbnbs. So because we're not allowed to have Airbnbs based on our ordinance, we wanted for them to be able to have the long stays. And so this, going through the tourism housing, we were allowed for them to be able to not be violating that process. So that's why it's called out that way. Yes.
Does this apply to our motel to hotel tax?
I believe it will.
No.
I would have to check on that, but because it's called tourism boarding housing, I believe it is. But I would have to check on that.
Okay.
Just to be clear for the rest of the council, this is just an extension back from the old Mission Dorado Country Club that Mr. Sewell and Mr. Forrest bought, and it just goes on. That used to be a golf course back there anyway. And they're just planning on doing a short course. I don't think it's going to be a full-scale golf course. It's all it's going to be, and just for their members and their guests. So it's more or less the short end of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the equestrian piece of it. So I know it's private, but still it increases quality of life in the area, and it's be a great addition to the city.
Can
So the project that you guys saw earlier with the housing is right next to this one. So these two are right next to each other. Just so you kind of, that whole area is being developed and more housing will be coming to this area as well.
Council, any questions, discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
until we get clarification on if we're gonna get hotel taxes off of this, I'd like to push this to another time. Because we don't have all the answers.
It makes no difference to me. I mean, it's developing the quality of life and the.
We're talking about how many,
versus-
we're talking about how many houses?
Oh, sorry.
We're talking about 25?
Yeah, max
Yeah.
is 25.
I mean, it's not a huge impact. It's not gonna make a huge impact on the hotel motel tax, dude.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. It's
But
just,
right now, we have discussion.
this is just part of a bigger development, and it's not really meant to be, it's not an Airbnb, so, the sales tax issue probably really didn't really play into it, but, I just don't see that being a problem.
Well, it was a recommendation, it's not a motion, so this is a public hearing. So if there is no more discussion on the council on the dais, I'm going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. And anyone wishing to address item 10 as presented can do so by coming forward and stating your full name, and only for full name. You can do that by doing so now. Seeing that no one's coming forward on item 10, I am going to close the public hearing. Come back to the dais and ask for discussion. Councilman Haney, you say you wanted to postpone this.
Yes, sir.
I disagree on the postpone it, but if you want to make it in the form of a motion,
I do.
okay, state your motion.
I want to postpone this till we get an answer on the hotel taxes,
For when?
till the next city council meeting.
We have a motion.
We
Is
should
there,
have an answer by then, right? I'm just asking. Is it gonna
you're
take,
asking the wrong person.
is it gonna take longer?
Well, it's,
You have a motion. I recognize the motion. Do we have a second? Seeing that there is no second, the motion dies for lack of a second. Back to item 10, council. We have a recommendation that has been given by the P and Z Board on a public hearing of request of Los Cuatro Amigos LLC for a zone change, future development district to a mixed use on 159.28 acre tract, which is located in section 10, 11, 14, and 15, block 41 township survey, Texas Pacific Railroad in Midland County, Texas. Do we have a second on the first approval? Do we have a motion for the first approval? My
So
apologies.
moved.
I have a motion by Councilmember Thompson to approve item 10 as presented. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Vasquez. All those in favor indicate by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indication by a motion, same set. I'm sorry, I just got mixed up. Opposed? So we have a 6-1. Item 10 is approved. Thank you, Ms. Shaughnessy. We're going to move on to resolution item 11. Consider a purchase of replacement of the, what is it? Aon unit, animal shelter? Aon on?
Aeon.
Aon. Aon. Ms. Burns.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. On June 26, a fire broke out in the electrical components of the Aeon unit at the animal shelter, which is responsible for the air circulation and cooling in the kennels. We immediately found a rental unit to maintain proper cooling in the facility while we awaited repair and replacement quotes. Risk Management also contacted TML Risk Pool, our insurance provider, to determine if any expenses could be covered. And following an inspection on September 6th, it was confirmed that the Aeon unit was a total loss due to the fire damage. Because of this, TML has stated that they will cover the cost of the replacement and potentially the rental fees that we've paid above our $100,000 deductible. We currently have a little less than $75,000 remaining in our animal shelter project account, which we're going to continue to use to cover ongoing rental fees. And therefore, we are requesting to transfer $282,500 from the remaining PD training and academy facility project account, so we can go ahead and move forward with this purchase, since the replacement unit will have a 14-week lead time.
We're gonna make the account whole when we get the reimbursement?
Yes, so we will reimburse as soon as we get paid.
Will we need council action for the reimbursement? City Manager, will we need council action for the reimbursement when the insurance pays off?
Okay, we'll make sure to bring those back.
Okay. Council, any discussion on the item 10 as presented by Ms. Burns?
Just one question. The manufacturer warranty has expired. It just seems like the other day
Yes,
they're
yes,
open.
so our 1-year warranty expired in April.
1-year warranty, okay.
So we know why it failed. We know what happened, why it failed.
It was just, we don't know exactly why. I don't know if there was a component in the electrical area that just wasn't plugged in right and it sparked. We really don't know.
Okay, so I had a problem a couple weeks ago out at the parks, and I was gonna ask a question that we could find out who the electrician was on both projects.
Okay,
Okay, because the wiring was done wrong, so, and we need to find out if this was the same deal, because if that sparked, then that should fall on that electrician, not us.
sure. Yeah, we will definitely look into that.
Council, any further discussion or questions? If not, I will entertain a motion for item 11.
So move.
I have a motion by Councilmember Cornell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Swanner. All those in favor indicating by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Now I'm back in rhythm. Item 12, consider the new employee benefit offerings effective January 1, 2025, along with the proposed changes and costs. Ms. Griffin.
Hi, good
Good
evening,
evening.
Mayor, Council. So we came before you during work session a couple weeks ago to share with you the work that we've been doing to reinvent our benefit program. And I also, in that discussion, when we talked about it, you asked us a couple questions. So I wanted to come back before you, before we go for the approval, to make sure that you had those updates. One of the things I wanted to make sure that the council understands what they're voting on too. This will include changes. So I provided you kind of a high-level sheet that you have in front of you. And I thought we could just talk through it briefly, quickly. So one of the items that we discussed at the work session was if we could go out and contract with an ERISA attorney to help us actually rewrite the plan document and to cover all the ordinances and resolutions to make sure that we encompassed everything. And Dan has already did that for us, and we've already met with them for them to get started. That's one of the big things that need to actually happen. We also talked about the cost of retiree coverage and how expensive it can be. Just as we age, the costs just increase. So we wanted to propose going forward, not for current retirees, but for employees that are hired after January 1 or after. We wanted to propose some changes in terms of their coverage. And that is that we would institute a term limit for them to work for the city, which we're suggesting 15 years of consecutive service with the city of Odessa. And then, of course, also meeting the criteria for retirement under TMRS. And then the little, I guess probably one of the hardest things is for retirees of age 65 or older, we're suggesting that we no longer cover that group. This is just for the January 1, 2025 hires and going forward. The last thing is around the life insurance, and we talked a little bit about this, in which the retiree life insurance is also included in the active pool. And so we wanted to consider having retirees, folks who retire, if they want to continue the coverage, they could do no more than $10,000. For current retirees, we're keeping things the same for the age 65. We're suggesting to keep things the same for the age 65. But we also need to talk about the post-65. Currently, right now, they can continue the coverage, and we should be paying secondary, but we don't allow them to continue the pharmacy. We provide a $45 supplement. And so we need to know if we can continue that or we should discontinue that. So a few other things. We're expanding the mental health and applicable services under EAP. We're including telemedicine. We increase the deductible a little bit and out-of-pocket maximums, employee premiums, and employee contributions if we think that they need to be. We would like to extend benefit offerings to the chamber. Right now, they can only participate in the medical and dental. And we'd like to be able to give them the opportunity to participate in vision, life, and the other ancillary benefits that are offered. We want to be able to provide employee contributions for the vision coverage. We don't currently contribute anything towards vision for our employees now. Then we went through all of our exclusions in comparison to Blue, and we, as best we can, will hopefully align with Blue standard for most of the items. Just want to highlight a few things that we did remove. We talked about last time massage therapy, and then adult orthodontia were the two primarily exclusions that we made. The second thing that the council asked was around the life insurance, and I mentioned that the TMRS offers a death benefit, and it does. So we're technically already paying for a $7,500 death benefit, and that's what the second sheet you have there. And then the last sheet is, you asked, what do other cities do? So we tried to go out and get that information for you. And particularly around the life, and most of them do offer benefits to retirees. They do allow the retirees to continue benefits. Not all of them cover the cost of it, like we do. We don't cover the cost of it, and retirees pay the full cost of their coverage. I wanted to note, like Ector County, if you'll note on that first sheet a little bit down, they do require like 12 years of continuous service with the county in order to continue benefits. So those are the high-level elements that you'll want to take into consideration. And if you have any questions, I'm prepared to answer them. And Kevin, who's here from Gallagher as well, that he's going to come up and speak. But I'll share with you, which I didn't make a copy of, I didn't, it was attached on the ticket, but we sent so much stuff out to everybody. This is the actual review.
Just to be clear, Yvette, the benefits you're offering the chamber are not paid for by the city.
Right.
They're all voluntary.
They're all paid for by the chamber.
By the chamber or voluntary. No cost to us.
Thank you for that.
I want to make sure everybody understands.
That's okay.
What you have before you is the plans we currently have and what we're moving. Kevin, you want to step up? As I mentioned, Gallagher, Kevin Towery is here with us this evening, so if you have questions, I think we're prepared to answer.
Just for a public clarification, when we're consideration for council approval, the employees hired after January 1, 2025 must complete 15 years of consecutive service in the city of Odessa. Said the county has a 12-year. What was the prior policy?
We just followed the retirement system's eligibility, and which is like 60, what is it, Roxanne, I think?
It's 20 years
20
of
years.
service
With any city.
at any age or
65 and, or
close, if you're 60 at any.
So it was transferable.
It's transferred. We don't need to be responsible for that, Mayor.
Yeah.
I can assure you.
Okay.
It's like buying
What-
blind
what-
pig in a poke.
What the team here has put together is a true benefits package.
Yeah.
That we don't have today. This council has done a lot of work over the last year to put together, to make this a place where we can hire first responders, where we can hire people. We're working on salaries and benefits right now. We've really seen it in our police and fire department, where we're as full probably as we've ever been in both of them, and we have recruits knocking on the door. And this is the next step to getting that to where we need to be. And it's, I applaud the work Kevin, Yvette, Steve have done, and not saying the whole team have done to put this together. The cost isn't significantly more than what we're paying now. And one suggestion on that that's probably not needed right now is not to increase the budget that we have right now until we get closer to incurring costs. Because I believe with some of the contracts that we're going to find, and that's kind of scary to say, but we're going to find as we're jettisoning off some of these independent things that we've done, I believe that we'll save the money to take care of any cost over our budget right now.
Yeah, we do think, in working with Gallagher, that we will be able to generate some savings.
Yeah, there's some very old contracts, like 20 years old, that we honestly don't quite know. We know a little bit about their contract, but that's about as far. We're not quite sure what's happening. Is there balance billing going on? We really can't get to the bottom of it from a reporting perspective. So we're kind of stepping off here. We have a good handle on it, we think, with our actuaries, but it's going to be one of those things we're going to have to kind of keep peeling the onion back to figure out what we've got. It's just been, the plan was written so long ago, and it just hasn't been upgraded.
Another question is about the RX cover for the pharmacy, pharmaceuticals. For the
Yeah,
drugs,
the pharmacy.
Or
You
the
wanna talk-
$45. Is this for the retirees?
It's for the
Okay. So you're
post-65.
needing council direction on that?
We do.
Okay.
Whether or not we should continue that, or the other option is they could participate in the RX. They don't currently now.
Yeah.
And Kevin has some thoughts on that.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to, but it would be very costly for the city to flip today's program and start covering an over age 65 retirees' prescriptions. So today, they have to take what's called Medicare Part D. The city's been giving them a $45 stipend to cover that, so it saves the plan money. But we are recommending going forward January 1st that over 65 retirees are not eligible for the plan. So, which is a big step. We understand that, but, you know, this is about managing risk. And to Mr. Burkmeyer's point, we're really upgrading this. It's going to be a big upgrade. It's going to be able to attract talent, but we can't continue to just spend money, you know, in areas where our competitors are not.
How many retirees are we talking about?
We currently have approximately 200.
Over 65.
Over 65, there's
Oh.
It's 100.
Let's just say half of what we
Yeah,
currently have, which
right.
is 225.
Okay.
And those will be grandfathered in, though, correct?
Pardon?
Those employee or retirees will be grandfathered in.
Right, and current employees who meet the, you know, who won't have this criteria. So the employees
It's the new
today.
employees after
Yeah.
January 1. Yeah.
So what that affords us to do is to be able to control costs going forward. These will bleed off and nobody else will be going in that category. So, and that's the most expensive claims we can possibly have. But
I will tell you, from meeting with the retirees, I also think there's a real education issue here. I think a lot of them just, oh, I'm a retiree, I'm just gonna keep paying into this, even though they've got probably full Medicare benefits, and they're not utilizing them like they should. So I think there's a process here. They've just been kind of on autopilot and been paying into the city for their coverage, and while they're also buying Medicare.
What's the average cost for a retiree to buy for the coverage?
For our coverage,
With the current plan?
the current plan, for retiree only, it's $216
A month?
a month, or if they have Medicare.
If they have Medicare.
If not, it's $620.
Wow.
There's a lot of people taking the 621.
Right. So we have a lot of work to do around education, communication. So a lot of work to be done.
So the bottom line is if they're educated, their actual bill could come down as they rely on the Medicare more heavily.
Yes. Yes, and understand the nuances of selecting, a Medicare Part D.
I think a lot of them just think that they have to have it. So they just, it's kind of like a paycheck deduction. You just keep rocking on. So it's going to take time to get education and to get everybody on, understanding.
Okay. But the Medicare coverages are very good, and I don't mind sharing with the council, that, I had COVID and was in the ICU for 59 straight days, and my bill was approaching $750,000, and all I've got is Medicare A, B, and D, and it didn't cost me a dime.
Yeah.
So that needs to be somehow related back to our employees, because I can tell you personal experience, it does its job.
Yep.
So, thank you, taxpayers.
We agree.
Thank you, Mr. Buckes.
Council, do we have any other questions on item 12 as presented?
Just a rough effective date for activating this plan.
January 1.
I'm sorry.
January 1st.
25, okay.
Everybody's insurance is activated January 1.
Yeah.
Just a big step.
Council, no further questions or discussion. Item 12 is to consider new employee benefit offering, which will become effective of January 1 of 2025, along with the proposed changes in costs. This will implement a new employee benefit plan designed based on recommendations from Gallagher Benefit Service Incorporated. Council, do we have a motion and a second on this ordinance? The ordinance on as presented, I have a motion by
Second.
Councilmember Mata, second by Councilmember Cornell. All those in favor indicating by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed in the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you all very much.
I tell you, good job, and it's almost done, but you're just beginning.
Oh, he knows that. He knows that.
We're going to move on to item 13, consider resolution changing authorized representatives for West Texas National Bank. How you doing, sir?
Good. Good evening, Council, Mayor. Yes, I have a resolution to consider changing authorized representatives for West Texas National Bank. Right now, we still have some of the former finance, it is the former finance staff that's still on the West Texas National Bank authorized user list. So we can't, the current finance team is having issues getting in and pulling statements and information that we need. We do have some cash and investment accounts over at West Texas National Bank. So what we're wanting to do is simply update the new representatives to City Manager, Mr. Beckmeyer, Finance Director, Kaylee Banda, and myself, Matt McGee, Finance Controller.
How'd you find that out? We still had the...
Same question.
So we're doing...
who are the past representatives? They're still on there.
Yes, the former Finance Director, Larry Fry, former Controller, and former Senior Accountant from...
Seth Bowles and Christopher Hayes.
Yes, Seth and Christopher.
I'm just curious why it's taking so long for you guys to bring that back to us.
Well, a lot of
You had to be dealing with it.
No, what's going on is we're working on the audit, so we're needing to pull a lot of the information. So a lot of that information was there last time, so we didn't have to physically get in and pull it because they already pulled it for us. So now we're trying to get in and pull it for the new years, and we don't have any access.
Is there any other financial institution where we have that issue still at hand?
I don't believe so, but I can double check with Kaylee and make sure we get everything wrapped up at once instead of bringing these one by one.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as there's a change, there's got to be, John, I just think there needs to be some kind of a policy that when somebody in that department leaves, they get taken off immediately. And I mean, that shouldn't, because you've been, I'm kind of shocked that account. You've been here a year and you're still not on the account.
I didn't know about this account
No,
till
I
just
understand.
now. And also because of the way that the change went in the accounting department, we still had, I believe, Larry Fry signing checks all the way up until after Mr. Bowles left. and we were able to get everything changed over. And part of that is a fairly, it's not huge, but fairly significant cost of even changing checks and all. And I'm going to go back again to the documentation that was left for the current staff that was there. I'm not going to guarantee that there's not another account somewhere that they say, look, we found a piece of paper now.
Yeah.
Except they're not going to find a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's not that much different than what we've seen in risk management.
I've seen it in smaller companies.
Oh, yeah.
Can't even imagine. Can't even imagine.
It's just so dangerous.
Yeah.
It's really not. Just as Kevin was talking about these contracts that we find and we go like, why in the world did the former risk director do this?
Yeah.
We find things in finance and we say, what in the world were people thinking here? Thank you to Matt and to Kaylee, who is not here right now, and their team for getting this cleaned up, and Monica back here. Monica stays out of the spotlight, but she's been a superstar in all this. So I'll try not to embarrass her too bad. But that is truly where we are, and thank you for getting these things cleaned up.
So item 13 is proposed to consider resolution changing authorized representative for West Texas National Bank. This is changing the previous authorized representative to the current for West Texas National Bank. Do I have a motion and a second?
So move.
I have a motion by Councilman Vasquez, second by Councilman Thompson. All those in favor of the motion indicate by motion of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, indication same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're going to move on to item 14, consider levy of tax for the 2024 tax year, fiscal year 2024-25, second and final approval. Here you go, Matt. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I'm just reading off the second and final approval for the property tax levy. We are considering levying the tax for 2024, adopting a tax rate of 46.6275 cents per $100 property valuation for municipal maintenance and operations and debt service for the fiscal year 24 and 25. The proposed tax rate will be lower than last year. And then you can see we do have a breakdown of the proposed tax rate, the no new revenue, voter approval, and the current tax rate.
Still disagree with that statement.
And we do also want to note that we did get the property evaluations for Odessa, which is around, what's that, 12 billion? It's an increase from 8.2 of the property evaluations from last year.
What was the tax rate last year? What was the cents in per 100 evaluation?
The 48.3791.
What is it going up for the 24-25?
It's decreasing to 46.62.
How in the heck does it say it's a 0.82% increase?
That's going to be the dollar amount of the properties. So
because of evaluation, there's 0.82% more money coming in because of the evaluations. How this language states it states it like if we're going up 0.82%. I'm not telling you, Matt, but it just kind of.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. It is kind of.
Because what's going to happen is that we're going to sit there and we're going to see a 0.82% tax increase when it's actually going down.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and that's lost in the translation, and that's not an accident.
Oh yeah, no, I hear you. Yes, sir.
So
Do the other entities run the same language?
I believe so.
Well,
I sure haven't seen it.
Matt wasn't here, and he doesn't know this. So when we were forced to do this last year, and I put my foot down on it. I challenged the person that was on there, realized that person was incompetent, and it's in the language for us to say it. Mm-hmm. So I asked that same question, Councilman Thompson. Said, show me another entity that's done this. I've yet to see it.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
so
sir.
I will tell you that for the record, I protest that this is not a 0.82 tax increase on property. We are actually reducing.
Increasing.
What is being lost in this is that there's more value, there's more inventory, there's more taxable property in Ector County within the city limits that is increasing more money coming in.
Correct, yes, sir.
So, yeah, that's just for record. I'm off my soapbox. Council?
I wonder why you're so tall.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll take every foot I can get there. Council, discussion, comment?
Well, yeah, now that you explained it based on past history, I'm afraid to make the motion.
It's hard to read, yeah.
Oh, so you're gonna get blamed for it.
Just
Right. Right. Okay,
just
tell me
say
when
that
you're
you're
ready.
doing it under the direction of the city attorney.
Okay.
Now, I am, just to answer your question, I looked it up, ECISD's website, and it doesn't state on there that it's a tax increase, and they have the same, their rates stayed the same.
But they had a tax increase. That's what
It
you're
doesn't,
saying.
it's not saying
It
it.
doesn't say
No,
about
I
tax
know,
increase.
but they had
But they
tax
did.
increase because
They
they got more property values than we have.
Exactly, but
They have twice as
they don't have to state it, so.
If,
I don't understand
if you're
it.
not under the same scrutiny for the language that you use, is it perception or reality?
But yet they're a bigger
I
tax
mean,
entity than you
it's a
are.
scrutiny that you're under.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
because
I agree with that,
their values are twice as much as ours.
So
as it should be.
Yeah, it's because it's the whole county.
if our attorney says that we need to use that language because of the scrutiny that we're under, I'd say we use the language.
Yeah,
No, I
I
don't.
agree. I just wanted to enter it for the record.
It's an increase in revenue, there's no doubt about that, but we have decreased the rate.
So is there any way we can get that language changed? Is that possible?
I'm hoping it
Quit
does-
laughing.
I'm hoping it doesn't get worse in about 6 months.
Well, it's misleading. I agree with the mayor 100%.
I agree.
Go ahead. Councilman Vasquez?
If there is no further discussion, I move,
An example of misleading here.
I move that the property tax be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of .466275, which is effectively a .282 increase in tax rate.
We have a motion. Council, do we have a second?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second by Councilmember Vasquez. Thompson is the second. All those in favor indicate by a motion of aye.
Aye.
All those by a vote of aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passing unanimously.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you for being our punching bag there for a second.
You think you did it well.
We're going to move on to item 8, miscellaneous, item 15. We're going to discuss and consider dissolving the Tax Incentive Committee. This is to dissolve the Tax Incentive Committee, work with the ODC's Compliance Committee for tax abatement purposes. Ms. Burns.
Yes, hello again. So the current Tax Incentive Committee was established in 2011 by the City Council to make recommendations regarding all tax incentive guidelines, policies, and applications. However, the committee has only been reviewing the criteria and guidelines for tax abatements every other year and certifying compliance with existing tax abatement agreements, of which the last one that was approved was in 2017. A subcommittee met on August 16th to discuss the committee's usefulness and made a recommendation that the committee be dissolved and that a request be made to the Odessa Development Corporation to use its compliance committee for periodic reviews of the tax abatement applications compliance and guidelines, as they currently have similar responsibilities. On September 10th, the ODC indicated its willingness to allow the use of its compliance committee for tax abatement purposes at its meeting. We are now asking for consensus to move forward with the dissolution of this committee. If approved, the ODC can consider amending its bylaws to allow its compliance committee to review tax abatement related items at their next meeting on October 3rd. We will then bring the amendment to the city ordinances to remove the committee from the list of boards, commissions, and committees, as well as the ODC bylaw amendments to the October 22nd City Council for consideration. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Burns, is the Tax Incentive Committee created by the council or the Odessa Development Corporation?
This one's created by the council.
Really?
Yes,
And
it's
it
in
was-
our city code
When was it created?
in 2011. So previously, there was a South Enterprise Zone that did similar activities, but specifically the South Enterprise Zone. But once that was dissolved, because the Enterprise Zone went away, that's when this committee came into place.
Okay.
And Mayor, I want to abstain from this since I'm currently on this committee.
You were.
Well, depending on how the vote goes, you're about to be.
You're about to, it probably, there's a recommendation to dissolve it, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
there
You're
is.
going to be a next member of it pretty soon.
He's not too unhappy about it, I'm sure.
I mean, that once a year is hard to hard to meet, but hard to schedule.
Well, everybody will be fine for that committee. Council, is there any discussion on item 15 as proposed by Ms. Burns? If not, I will consider a motion to consider dissolving the Tax Incentive Committee. We have a motion and a second.
So moved.
I have a
Second.
motion and a second, Councilman Swanner, and second by Councilman Thompson. All in favor indicating by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed indicating the same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We're gonna move on to item 16, discuss,
With one abstention.
with abstention, I'm sorry. He had already made a motion that he was gonna abstain. I forgot to recognize it. Item 16, discuss the Odessa Police Department ARPA Fund project progress. How you doing, sir?
Mayor, council members, how are y'all?
Good, Davidson.
So we have the 3 projects with the ARPA funds, the elevator replacement, the parking garage demo, and the lobby restroom renovation. So far we are under contract with the elevator replacement. I believe through that contract, half of the funding's been provided to the company. They're purchasing the materials, and I believe that's within 6 months. I'm sorry, 6 weeks, they'll start the construction on the elevators. Elevators take forever.
I know.
Yeah,
I noticed the one here.
And our back one's a ghost one. It just stays open with the light on the whole time. It's pretty weird. The parking garage demo, y'all just approved under the consent, so that's where that one's at. The lobby restroom renovation is the contract's under the review process. There was a missing signature, so it's going back through the review process. And that's where we're at with those 3 projects.
So you've come under budget by $194,171.31.
Fantastic.
Where is that being redirected? Going back to general fund, or is it gonna start building to address
It's
the?
ARPA funds, so we'll have to attach it to something.
Yeah.
What I would suggest is as we get started, make sure that the bids are solid enough.
See, there's no-
Pay any differences, then we look for other areas where ARPA funds can be used, and we attach it to something there. But we don't want to
So,
lose it.
do we have to, let's say, for example, we wind up going and staying under budget and there's no, any adjustments or anything like that, and we have this amount or close to this amount, so will the council have to deallocate and reallocate? It's ARPA, right?
And don't we have a time frame that we have to spend this money?
Yes.
Good time frame.
Yes.
Like end of this year, end of 26, maybe 25.
That wasn't a good answer.
We have to attach it to something by.
End of 2020.
Allocate it to the project by the end of this year.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
Spend it by the
end of this year.
Yes, correct. Be under contract by the end of this year. Contract purchase order, something showing that it is in place.
So, do we have the original list? Because there was more stuff on that list that pertained to the OPD. Like to be able to, let's just start looking at it now that the council's gonna have to do this. So let's reintroduce that list back at the work session in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Look
Do dog air conditioners fall under ARPA?
I'm sure we can. I mean,
We got a roof issue down there. I mean, anything like that, start looking at
I
that.
think we can. I have a quarterly report that I have to fill out in October. So that's coming soon within the next few weeks. And at that point too, I will reach out to all the departments, see where they're at, see what they have available. And then that way we can present to y'all anything that's left over, and then we can come up with something.
If we can leave it in the realm of that area and that building and within those departments, let's just do that. That'd be my first choice.
I'd probably have to agree with that.
A reward of being able to bring this in under budget and give us an opportunity to be able to extend these dollars a little bit further. It's a gift.
Yes, sir.
And so we should take advantage of it, and we are under a time crunch to do
We
that.
don't need to wait till the last minute. We only
Yeah.
have one meeting in December.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Do we need action on this? Okay. Mr. Davidson, anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you, we appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna move on to item 17, discuss amending section 8-1-6, entering restroom of the opposite sex of the city code ordinance. Mr. Beber, do we have this, excuse me real quick, do we have this, did we postpone this from the last farther back, or did we?
Did we table it, or was it
Table it, I
postponed?
don't recall. Well, y'all check that out.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a couple of meetings, so.
Yeah. But the thing is, I don't want to discuss it if we tabled it. You can't discuss it if we tabled it. And I don't want to take action on untabling if we never did table it. So, I don't recall.
Have we postponed it, I think?
I thought we had postponed
I think we postponed it, but check.
Just give them a minute. I want to make sure. Sylvia, see? Where you going to?
No, study.
There's an extra computer over here.
I don't recall what the action was. What meeting was that?
It was in June.
Yeah, it's been 3 months.
Yeah, we've slept since then.
I just don't remember what.
It's a contest, Mark or Norma.
She had a head start, so.
Mark will probably get it.
At what time? 7:50. So we could. What was the date of the meeting?
All I remember is June, Mayor, so I'm pulling up June.
Congratulations. I can't even remember that.
So it's either the 11th or the 25th.
It's not the 25th.
Okay.
Have my computer at work.
So, are we doing comments now, or?
No, we need to clarify whether this was tabled or not.
Tabled or postponed?
Because if we tabled it, we have to untable it, and we can't discuss it if it's been tabled.
Okay, sorry.
So it was the June 11th meeting. I'm pulling up the minutes to verify.
Mark's slowing down in his old age.
Slow downloading.
It was the 25th,
The 11th.
the 11th?
It was a work session, so there was no.
So there's.
There was no
postponement.
action?
There was no action. It
Okay.
was just discussion only.
Okay.
Let's get after it. Dang, she beat me.
Yeah, it was item 7. Okay, seeing that there was no action, there was no table. Council, I will open it up for discussion. Don, do you want to?
So this is a new item essentially. It was discussed in a work session, but there was no action taken. At that point, what I have in front of me today is at the minimum 2 different ordinances to address the members of an opposite sex going into bathrooms, changing rooms, locker rooms, that type of thing. I have one that looks like it was probably worked on, probably from where y'all started, worked on by our legal department. And then another one presented today that I'd like for y'all to look at the language in, that actually includes some language that has already been before court and has even survived the scrutiny of the ACLU, and that's the one with the red on it that y'all are provided today. If I were you, and again, I'm just going to throw these out there, punt the ball and run the other direction, let y'all tackle each other. If I were you, I would take these, and I believe Mr. Haney has his that he can get a copy of to you all. Let you all take and look at these. Come back in 2 weeks and say, we want to go with this language. Again, the one with the red, the one that basically on the second page reads, to extent permitted by law, each multiple occupancy bathroom or changing facility owned or operated by the city shall be designated and so forth, has survived scrutiny of the courts at this point, and just something else to look at.
So, on my ordinance, it doesn't just cover the city, it covers, I mean, not the city property, it covers the whole city. Everybody's private stuff. That's where this is needing at, not just in the city, it's needing all over the whole city. Individual restaurants, dressing rooms, schools, all of it, because it addresses men into ladies' facilities, and it constantly addresses this as some say that this is known as I'm not even gonna say it because I don't want to get into that part of it. But for me, we've already had one incident. You guys were asking me for an incident, and I have someone that is willing to come forward and tell you about what happened in the bathroom. And so I'm just saying that the city, I mean, we can do what we want in the city. These buildings belong to us, but the buildings out there, we need to protect the kids. If this is going on, we have teenagers working in restaurants. We have teenagers who are basically left at night cleaning up, doing different stuff in these facilities, and things are going on. So I want to get this printed out and in your hands, because we need to take a serious look at this. It's not just the next thing is it going to move into churches? Is it going to move into their bathrooms? Is it going to be, is all of this going to start happening because we only have a city ordinance in the city buildings and not protecting the rest of the city? And so we have gymnasiums that are already allowing, in other places, they're already allowing men into the ladies' dressing room. The intimidation factor is something that we need to take a hard look at, because again, this is not, you guys took 2014, we took and passed the smoking ban, and you guys were wondering, how are you going to enforce this?
Who's you guys?
Not you guys.
Oh,
I'm talking
okay.
about in the city
Okay.
passed. I'm sorry. I should. My bad. Not you guys sitting up here, but they passed a smoking ban in all the restaurants here, and they were wondering how they were going to enforce that. Well, it didn't take long that the owners of the facilities took care of the non-smoking deal. So there's ways that this can be enforced. People that own their own buildings and stuff can enforce this themselves. So we want to let them have something behind them that backs them. So that's where I'm sitting at.
Councilman Haney, with the ordinance that you're gonna, you provided that to us?
Yeah, I got it right.
Okay.
I gave you the wrong one. Sorry.
Okay, so
I printed off the wrong one.
I'd like to request anything as far as that'll accompany the authority, any language that's in that ordinance that has that's gone before a court that's been challenged, that basically that has gone through a court where a city has done this, a kind of a carpet all across the city to be able to do that. You use the smoking ordinance, which I I vaguely remember that. I remember discussing it with some of the city councilmen at that time, because they were also trying to do it in the parks. Going through this process with the SOBs back in the 90s, and then I think it was 2018, 2019 with the human trafficking. One of the advices is to always use language as a measure of protection that has gone to muster through the courts.
Yes, sir.
Entities that have, whether it's, schools are very good, a good example, because they have to deal with the Title IX. They have to deal with the locker rooms and things of that facility. So if there's anything that accompanies what you have, that'd be a good help for the council to read.
And that makes sense. I'll get that for you, because I do have some stuff on that already.
That'd be very helpful.
And I apologize to you guys for wasting your time up here with
You guys.
giving you the wrong thing.
You guys.
Mayor.
Yes,
City
sir.
Council.
It would really be a benefit me and my team to be able to sit down and look at the ordinance.
Yes.
So if you could send it to us, Councilman Haney, that would be good, then we'll come back.
Okay.
And so we have that consideration, this consideration.
Yeah.
This is a little short version.
I think y'all need to think about this and digest all of this.
Yes, most definitely.
To speak to the voices that would say, well, why do we need to do this? I can actually take it out of the legislating morality or anything like that at this point, and go back to some of the places where our state and our cities didn't pass ordinances, whether they were enforced or not, didn't pass them. And then the federal government did come in and pass sweeping, not ordinances, but laws, basically, from a national level through the Supreme Court, through the legislature, the National Congress. And cities that don't have anything in place have no standing then if you do want to go to court. So there is a reason to pass these ordinances, even if you don't care or don't think we have a problem. And even if you're don't feel like that you will ever have a problem, you have the ordinance in place and you have standing if there is a mandate from the federal government that is passed down. And you can say, well, that never happens. Well, look what just happened with Title IX. It has very muchly damaged girls, ladies, females. I'll get it right. Opportunity in sports, and we don't want that. Of course, some of that has been blocked too, so
yeah,
maybe we're going down the right path. But if we have standing, you can always say, look, we don't agree with this. But if you don't have standing, you just accept what comes down.
I mean, I would add that, what we're seeing in this country, we're seeing a radicalization, we're seeing radical change. I keep bringing this up because we lived in the world before Title IX and we're living in the world after Title IX. And we're seeing that radical change on the Title IX. We've seen it radicalized very forcefully under this Biden-Harris administration, and it's forcing girls to share bathrooms in schools and things of that nature. We constantly hear it. It's not, and it's just not limited to that. It's into locker rooms. We have young people with biological males that, and what we're seeing is we're seeing an allotment allowing males, biological males, to compete overwhelmingly in all levels of sport with females. I think there was a huge reaction to what we saw in the Olympics in the boxing. That was pretty extreme. I'm going to use a real radical scenario. What about if the Kamala Harris administration wins this election in November? Was a real possibility. Is it safe to say that there will be a huge assault on local control? And the ideology could be radical. But the biggest fear is not having standing and it being shut down to municipalities, which is the first and the last defense of what municipalities and what their authority, but what's their responsibility. And so there's going to be a lot of discussion about authority. There's going to be a lot of discussion, social issues, all of that. But let's consider the standing. I think Mr. Beckmeyer really put that together, is that there's two ways municipalities can address. They can be forward-thinking or they can be reactive. And when you're winding up in being in the reactive, then you're limited. That window and that road gets a lot narrow. So there's a lot to digest. I would say that you would look at language, look at from a perspective of not getting into too many of the weeds, look at from the standpoint of the law, but find language and find precedent that accompanies that language and what has gone through the ringer. I think that's very critical because it's topics like this that can lead to a lot of litigation.
Yep.
And so I think that's something that you need to keep in the forefront. You know, you've got to consider the language. It is critical, and I really advise that you look at any type of language that will accompany that. If you can't find it, look for it. If you can't find it and you don't look for it, ask for help on that. And I think that's something that we really should weigh on merit. Council, do we have any other discussion on this item?
Do we need to
Council.
table or?
Council, we do have a speaker card.
Okay.
Tracy Austin. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
They were just voting on candidates.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Austin. I want to start by telling you a story that is true because it happened to me. I was driving along I-20 and I stopped at a convenience store when I needed a restroom. I am a woman of a certain age. Many of you can.
29 years old. You're doing very well.
I think some of the women out here would agree with me that when you gotta go, you gotta go. I went into the convenience store and the women's room was closed and it was an emergency. So I banged on the wall of the men's room. Big bathroom, no walls, no doors. And I said, "Can I come in? I have to go to the bathroom." And the men in there said, "Of course, come in." So I went in and I took care of my business. I walked out, thanked the men, and I went on my journey. This narrative of restrooms being invaded is not a problem that exists. How many calls have actually come into the OPD from someone using an opposite gendered bathroom? And don't even get me started when you can't enforce it. This is not like smoking. This is, how are you going to tell who is a female and who is a male? You can't without DNA and anatomy check. Do you intend to have people carry their birth certificates? Because I think that's part of the language. Now, I don't have the language that you have in front of you. I can't carry my birth certificate around with me. Will you check them at the door, or no, we're gonna have bathroom bouncers? Because I wanna apply for that job. I think that would be an easy gig. Just kidding. It all seems a little bit silly to me. I thought it was important, though, as a person who has had an emergency and had to enter a men's restroom, to have this put on before you. I think we should move on from imaginary problems and talk about problems that are wide scale and do affect a lot of Odessans. For example, the water, trash pickup, and even our understaffed police department. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Mayor.
Jeff Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight until our last speaker got up. It's not an imaginary problem, it's a real problem, and I know because it happened to my granddaughter. My granddaughter, 17 years old, works at a Chick-fil-A here in town, was on the night shift, had gone into the women's restroom, kind of late in the shift, comes back out, and there's a man dressed as a woman standing there in the restroom at Chick-fil-A. It certainly unsettled her, scared her. She didn't know quite how to react. Went and reported it to her manager and told them what had happened, and they were like, we don't have anything we can do about it. She continued to be rattled by that for several days as she kind of recounted. As her grandfather, it didn't rattle me, it made me really angry that my granddaughter had to face that at 17 years old or any age. And so this is not an imaginary problem. We know that this is happening in a lot of places. Like I say, I have a personal account. I take it rather seriously, and I do think that we need to define it and put some teeth in it to give some direction to business owners and others that may have that, so they do have an answer if this happens in their place and a space is invaded by someone of the opposite sex in a place where it shouldn't be. So I'd just like to ask you guys to give it serious and due consideration. I don't think that anything that we do is probably going to be perfect. The ball keeps moving. We keep having to try our best to react to the conditions on the field. But this is, again, this is not an imaginary problem. It's a real problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, Harry?
Good evening, council. Just kind of wanted to touch base. I definitely agree with Mr. Russell on this. Want to add a little bit to that of we don't need to wait until this does become a problem. We need to get on top of this before it is a problem. And somebody with a perversion doesn't need to be in a restroom with my kids. Doesn't need to be in a restroom with your kids and your grandkids. We don't need to create an environment or allow or foster an environment that allows something like that to happen. And so I implore you to consider taking some action on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay. Council, any further discussion on this item before we move forward? Before we dwindle to less than the quorum? We're gonna move on to item,
Mayor, we're gonna table it, postpone it?
postpone it. I don't want to table it. We'll just postpone it for 2 weeks.
Do we have to take any action? It just says discuss amending. It doesn't say discuss and consider.
Yeah, there's no action.
We don't have to do it.
Discuss it.
Yeah, we discussed it. We discussed the amending and bring it back in 2 weeks. Move on to item 18. Consider voting on the candidates for Texas Municipal League Intergovernmental Risk Pool Board of Trustees election. Mr. Beckmeyer. You here to-
I would ask the city secretary, who did we nominate last time?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Who did we nominate last time?
It was for Balmorhea,
Balmorhea.
John,
So y'all need to vote on
Don
that.
Davis.
You gotta do that again?
This is for the risk pool
This
board.
is something different.
Yeah, it's for the intergovernmental risk pool.
Oh, you're
Board of
trying to
Trustees.
volunteer the mayor for Balmorhea? Not for that.
It's a different one.
That's a different one. He's for the TML. He's for the,
Yeah, this is the risk pool.
this is risk pool.
What's the risk pool?
Yeah, this is for the risk pool.
Call out the names.
I think it's insurance.
Place 11 is Randy Criswell, and he's the city manager of Wolford, in Region 3. Position he's held since 2022. And then Robert S. Davis serves as city attorney of Bullard in Region 15. Then, let's see here,
We gotta get our region.
place 12. Get to it. Hang on now, hang on. That shirt's, ours is 13 though, isn't it? No, it's 4. Wait.
It's 4.
We're region
We're
4.
4. We're region 4.
Go back now.
No, that's it. That's what I kept wondering, where's ours at?
Who put this on?
Looks like we're gonna be postponing 13.
Can we, can we postpone
18.
this? Because
Yeah, we'll
obviously you're
postpone.
not prepared for this.
No, I mean,
It's just,
Postpone 18, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Your 3 minutes are up. We're gonna move on to 19.
I'm not sure that we actually had anybody
Yeah,
in our
because
region.
we're region 4. Yeah.
We don't.
And the
Honestly, I
ballots-
started filling it out, and I got to the last page, and it said you can't do this without council action. I gave it back to the city attorney and the city secretary.
And the ballots must be in by September 30th.
Well, I guess we're an undervote. We're gonna move on to item 18, appointments of boards.
None.
Seeing, oh, wait a minute, make sure. Item 20, citizens' comments on non-agenda items.
None.
Seeing that there's no more business before this city council, entertain a motion for adjournment by council member.
Mayor, there, we do have citizens' comments on non-agenda items number 20.
You just
I
said
just
You
said that.
it, okay.
You already said it. She
Okay,
said
good.
we had nothing.
I'm like going, okay, perfect, nobody's done it, okay.
Gotta catch up, man. We're moving fast here. So, item 21, seeing there is more business before this city council, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Councilman Mata, second.
Second.
Councilman Cornell, all those in favor indicating by a vote of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed indicating same sign. Motion passes unanimously. We are out of here. Safe going home.